From his gruesome tricep injury at All Out 2022 to his potential return to the WWE after his backstage visit. Here's why CM Punk's AEW return is gonna flop. CM Punk's journey in AEW has been quite the roller coaster ride, and unfortunately, it hasn't all been smooth sailing. One of the reasons behind his recent break from the promotion was a gnarly left triceps tendon injury he suffered during his match against Jon Moxley at All Out 2022.
With the cord around my neck because they've been trying to kill me since the day I was born, and they ain't found the man enough to do it yet. And Jon Moxley, you ain't him.
Let me tell you, this injury was no joke. It was serious enough to require surgery and a long, grueling recovery period. Poor Punk had to take some time off to heal up and get back in fighting shape. But hey, on the bright side, his rehab reportedly went really well, and it's likely not going to have any long-term consequences. Now, let's not forget that this wasn't the first time Punk had to hit the pause button due to an injury since joining AEW. He also had a foot ailment around the time of his victory against Adam Page at Double or Nothing in 2022. Talk about bad timing, right? But eventually, in June 2023, on the debut episode of AEW Collision, the hometown hero himself made his grand return. Teaming up with FTR, Punk took on the trio of Samoa Joe, Jay White, and Juice Robinson in a six-man tag team match that headlined the show. Now, you can imagine the buzz and anticipation in the air when Punk's music hit. The Chicago crowd went wild, and viewers at home were glued to their TV screens. Social media went bonkers too. Fans flooded Twitter and Facebook with all-caps excitement, and reaction videos on YouTube were popping up everywhere. It's safe to say that people were thrilled to see Punk back where he belongs. AEW president Tony Khan had high hopes for Punk's return. He knew that the fans' love for Punk was unbreakable. He praised Punk's amazing connection with the crowds, attributing it to his longevity and mystique. Even Jim Cornette couldn't help but gush about Punk's return promo on AEW Collision. He said it was one of the best promos he's seen in years. That's some high praise coming from a guy like Corny. So overall, it seems like a slam dunk, right? Everything's going well for Punk, and with the injury behind him, he can finally focus on taking AEW to new heights. But it's not so simple. You see, back in September 2022, right after AEW All Out, Punk found himself caught in the middle of a high-profile brawl involving none other than the Elite. Reports suggest that the scuffle included Punk, his trainer Christopher Ace Steel Guy, Kenny Omega, and Matt and Nick Jackson, aka the Young Bucks. And what exactly sparked this epic showdown? Well, during the All Out 2022 media scrum, Punk was asked if he had anything to do with his former buddy, Colt Cabana, getting fired. In classic CM Punk fashion, he responded with an entire shoot, saying that he works with a bunch of little children. And after he was done with Colt, he turned his attention to Adam Page, whom he called a disgrace to the company. And later, he started to tear down the Young Bucks and their credibility as the EVPs of AEW. Maybe Punk's words hit a little too close to home, and the Elite decided to defend their buddy. Or maybe it was because they believe Punk got Colt Cabana fired. Whatever the cause, things got intense. So intense, in fact, that the police got involved and there were whispers of potential legal troubles. Yikes! That's not the kind of fight you want to take to court. Fast forward to the present, and it seems like the issues haven't completely blown over. Reports suggest that tensions still simmer between Punk and the Elite. Can you imagine the awkward backstage encounters? In a recent interview, Punk opened up about the infamous backstage brawl and hinted that the situation has been exacerbated.
The only reason the public did not see is because when I finally had to countersue him through Discovery, we discovered he shared a bank account with his mother. That's a fact.
Translation: it's a messy situation that's been twisted and turned like a pretzel. But overall, it's safe to say that things might not be all sunshine and rainbows backstage. The tension from that infamous fight with the Elite has left its mark, like a wrestling boot to the face. In fact, the situation got so heated that Punk had to be strategically placed on a different show just to avoid the brewing storm. Punk himself might not be the most popular guy backstage. Even if he doesn't come across Elite, he might just come across their buddies. He's definitely going to face some hurdles when it comes to getting along with the rest of the AEW crew. Imagine having to navigate backstage like a wrestler tiptoeing through a minefield, hoping not to set off any explosive encounters. But hey, let's not jump to conclusions just yet. Wrestling has a funny way of turning things around. Maybe Punk's charismatic charm and undeniable talent will be enough to smooth out those rough edges and mend the broken bridges. After all, wrestling is all about the dramatic twists and turns, both in and out of the ring. But I'm just saying, he's found himself in a tricky spot. As long as he's on the new show, he might find it easier continuing to work with AEW. But sooner or later, it's gonna catch up to him, and it might just doom his AEW return. But unfortunately, backstage troubles are the least of Punk's worries right now. At 44 years old, Punk is no spring chicken in the wrestling world. Let's face it, in wrestling years, that's ancient. Sure, age is just a number, but when you're flying off the ropes and executing death-defying maneuvers, those joints start creaking louder than a rusty door hinge. And let's not forget Punk's penchant for injuries. It seems like he's become quite the regular at the injury rehab gym. From torn triceps to foot ailments, it's almost like his body is trying to send him a message. Hey dude, maybe it's time to take it easy and enjoy some comfy recliner time. And these are only his recent injuries. He's been through stuff like staph infections, concussions, and God knows what else during his time at WWE. Now, don't get me wrong, injuries are a part of the wrestling game, but when you add them to the equation with Punk's age, it becomes a recipe for concern. Can he really keep up with the younger, more agile talent, or will he end up needing more ice packs than victories? This is not going to help turn his return into something great. Mic skills are one thing, but he still needs to go out there and wrestle. Let's not sugarcoat it. It raises some valid questions about his ability to deliver the same level of excitement and athleticism he once did. Overall, it's safe to say that Punk is at the tail end of his career. But one of the main reasons why I think his AEW return is gonna flop isn't because of injuries or backstage troubles. It has more to do with the fact that Punk's heart doesn't seem to be in AEW anymore. Instead, it looks like Punk might be getting ready to head back to the WWE again, as hard to believe as it may sound. Now, you can't talk about him and WWE without mentioning how it all crashed and burned. Back in 2014, Punk quit the WWE mid-match during the Royal Rumble. He was heavily injured, constantly bickering with Vince and Triple H, and he didn't see a future for himself in pro wrestling anymore. He later burned pretty much all of his bridges with the company after filing a lawsuit and exposing all of the mistreatment he'd faced during a podcast interview. At this point, no one ever expected to see him in the WWE again. But fast forward to earlier in 2023, and Punk was spotted backstage at a WWE event in Chicago. You could practically hear the gasps and the collective "what the heck" from wrestling fans worldwide. Rumor has it that he was there to bury the hatchet with Triple H and a few other wrestlers. Who knows, maybe they had some discussions about a return. It's the wrestling world. Stranger things have happened. But here's the thing that really gets the rumor mill churning. If Cody Rhodes, who was once a prominent figure in AEW, can make his way back to WWE, why not Punk? There's another theory floating around. Some speculate that Punk might want to retire in the company that made him a megastar, WWE. It's like coming full circle. Retirement in the big leagues has a certain ring to it. No pun intended. While Punk's AEW return is making headlines, there's always that lingering possibility that he might just jump ship back to WWE. The wrestling world loves a good surprise, and this would certainly be a bombshell that would have fans and critics alike scrambling to make sense of it all. So, from his potential return to the WWE after his backstage visit to his gruesome tricep injury at All Out 2022, that is why CM Punk's AEW return is gonna flop.